where the women are not too convinced about the FDA reports that there are chemicals in some of our foodstuffs. Fauzuma Sawudu brings us this report.
Traders at the Agbogbloshie markets in Accra have dismissed a report by the Environmental Protection Agency and UK-based NGO Africa Pure Earth. The report points to the contamination of food crops, including contamination and tomatoes, by mercury and other heavy metals in mining areas. Despite growing public concern, the traders insist it is a conspiracy by authorities to encourage the purchase of imported food items.
Illegal gold mining, known in local parlance as galamsey, continues to pose dire socio-economic and environmental threats across the country. Beyond the much talked about pollution of water bodies, a new and alarming danger is emerging: the contamination of food crops by heavy metals such as mercury, as revealed in a recent report by the Environmental Protection Authority, EPA, in collaboration with UK-based NGO Africa Pure Earth. The study, conducted across mining communities in 6 regions, namely Western, Eastern, Ashanti, Central and Savannah, raises serious concerns about the safety of common food items, including taro leaves, commonly known as contumely, coconut, tomatoes, among others. Despite these concerns, traders at the Agbogbloshie market in Accra have dismissed the findings. They argue that the report is part of a wider agenda to discredit locally grown produce.
Affecting your market? No cocolo, Mogwani,
Suppliers of leafy vegetables like cabbage and lettuce also insist that their cultivation methods prevent any risk of contamination from heavy metals.
A higher market in so. Now, vegetables, especially cabbage and carrot, I say, even send a good way, I walk a crack and pokra pro. And this year, galamsey so now chemicals woman, ya the can vegetables and I best say no. Until I'm fat, galamsey so be anya day. Vegetables. To do a becker sabi our boy.
Shoppers like Linda, who had come to buy in bulk, said the crops appear fresh and uncontaminated. She added that proper washing before cooking makes them safe.
To be very honest, we don't have anything to see whether the foodstuffs are being contaminated or so. Because when you look at garden eggs, we come to the market and we see it very fresh, like the same way we've been saying it. And we see the contemporary, the same freshness is there. The plantain, the cassava, the same freshness is there. So we are not aware of it. Unless the government does something about the galamsey issue. Yes, the news is troubling because right now we sort of have to wash our vegetables with hot water, salt, and those things before we eat them. But right now we are not, most of us are ignorant about it.
However, health experts warn that the danger isn't always visible. Medical practitioner Dr. Arab says crops contaminated by heavy metals may not show any outward signs.
Genuinely, when it comes to these heavy metals, no amount of cooking or cleaning would take these metals out, which is why, we call them dangerous metals. It's not like you can cook, let's say, your food for like more than, it's not like boiling water, okay, to get impurities out. Yes, you boil water, you can take out bacteria, but you can't take out heavy metals from boiling. So, no, it doesn't. Cleaning food or making sure your meal is clean does not guarantee it's being free from heavy metals.
The health risks are significant, ranging from cancer to cardiovascular diseases and neurological damage.
One thing I like to tell people is when you look at taking in heavy metals, sometimes it may not be immediate, okay? But the short term, most of the times, is GI disturbance. Like you may feel some abdominal pain, cramping, diarrhea, nausea, vomiting, any of these, okay? But for long term, it can run across the whole body. Let's start with the brain, okay? So you can actually have methyl mercury affecting the brain, okay? You can have seizures, you can have tremors, long term, even memory loss. Okay, we can go on to other parts of the body like the kidneys, chronic kidney disease. Currently, it's on the rise. Okay, and we try to think, oh, maybe it's the soft drinks, maybe it's this. It could be a lot of things, but without knowing, very young people are actually picking up this. It could be from even the food we eat unknowingly, because there are people that don't even have risk factors. Okay, but then they are getting it. It could be mercury. Okay,
But can these conditions be reversed?
fortunately, no. It's not. I mean, memory loss, once it's lost, there's not. Once your kidneys are damaged, there's no return. Once you have mental retardation, there's really no. So most of the time, the damage is irreversible.
Amid growing concern about galamsey's hidden presence on our plates, some traders say the fear is already affecting their business.
affect Joan Tiama and Tokra as same marketing. To Moba Mubisa say free near by any actual no matter. And to Moyan is Samaya.
The galamsey menace, once confined to rivers and forests, is now threatening food security and public health, one crop at a time.
The calamity caused by illegal gold mining, also known as galamsey, transcends the obvious. Even what we consume is no longer safe. The next time you make an order, be careful about the menu because there just might be poison on it. Reporting for ChannelOne News, Fawzuma Saudu, Accra.
So very disturbing, comments around a very, very worrying trend where we are now being told by the experts that some level of heavy metals and mercury and other, dangerous chemicals are being found in our foodstuff. Really, 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 really unfortunate. And, we discussed this a bit during the news review segment. We know the reasons why we are experiencing some of these things. The galamsey menace, high on the radar, destroying every single thing. Our water, almost gone. Our food stuff is now next. And it creates, a very difficult situation for local residents and now for market women. The real struggle here, however, is that they are, they disagree with comments around who the people who've done the research and what this research contains. But the fact remains, if you listen to Pure Earth Ghana, if you listen to the Arocha Ghana, who've also done a lot of work within the space, if you listen to the Media Coalition of Media Coalition Against Galamsey, you get a sense that we are on a ticking time bomb. And for some reason, it seems that's very serious approach that is needed to tackle this menace is not being done, and it's very worrying. When my colleague Fawzuma Saudu, who filed this report, spoke to Dr. Omaira Arab, she was clear again in how these food stuff that we usually buy from the market. So she talks about the contamination, she talks about some leafy vegetables. All of them, had or contained some level of heavy metal. So it's a very worrying situation, very disturbing. We've not, of course, the FDA they came out to speak on this, calling for active, work to be done in terms of fighting this menace. We've also heard from the Pharmaceutical Association of Ghana. We've heard from the GMA, who threatened to embark on a strike if some work or active, work is not done to rectify this. And I can go on and on and on the various associations and groups that have come out to speak on this. So it is very clear that we need to do some work. Many have said that it is an existential threat because it threatens our water, it threatens our food, it threatens our economies. It threatens just everything around us. But
Fauzi's on the line. He's the one who filed the report. We can go and speak to him. Hi, Fauzi. How are you doing this Sunday?
Hello, Eno. I'm well. I trust you are too.
I'm very well, thank you. So you went to the Agbogbloshie market. I'm sure some of the women's utterances surprised you. Tell us about that.
I was shocked to the marrow, Eno, because given the extent of seriousness that many have called to be attached to the issue of Galamsey menace, and then hearing some of these comments that the market women passed was definitely, shocking, for the lack of better expression. But you couldn't have also faulted them as much, because the truth of the matter is that we know the class of people within which most of these market women fall. And when I went further to engage them, you'd realize that most of them didn't even know what mercury was in the first place. They didn't even know what some of these heavy metals were. I mean, obviously they know what galamsey is, but some of them don't even know that some of these illegal miners use toxic substances, in their activities. So they actually took the findings of the report with a pinch of salt. And you could also understand them to an extent, because, this has to do with their livelihoods. And we know how sentimental people can be. This is something that puts food on your table. So if there is a report that is saying that some of the crops that you are selling are most likely to be contaminated by some of these toxic chemicals, then by extension, it means that will have a toll on your business. And rightly said, they mentioned actually in the report that it has taken a heavy toll on their business, because now people come and some even ask where these consumer or where these leafy vegetables are coming from before they go ahead to make purchase.
Yes, Fauzi, would you say that it is time the FDA goes to the market to have a conversation with these women so that they can better understand what their report means?
Absolutely, and that's the crux of this. It comes back to education, public awareness. Like I stated, these women do not even know what a mercury is. For crying out loud, they do not even know. So the FDA, I think the FDA has a Herculean task, if you ask me, to play in ensuring that awareness, public awareness, gets to the nook and cranny of these marketplaces. When you actually trace the supply chain, one will argue that, well, this thing is happening somewhere, it's not in the Greater Accra region, but then these food crops are coming from Galamsey mining hotspots, and so you cannot be too sure whether or not the consumer you are buying, or the salad, or the cabbage, or any other food crop that has been cited in the report is safe for consumption. So the FDA cannot leave any stone unturned. They need to intensify public education that targets the sellers and then the buyers themselves. To the last person on the food chain, So public awareness is definitely the way to go. They need to engage. And, some of these women are, so like I said, it's a food chain from the farm gates to the middlemen, those who go there to get them in wholesale, and then they bring them to the market. And even at the market, there is a point where these women go to buy them in bulk before they come and then resell them. So it has to spread across from where these crops are coming from, to who is buying, to where the person is taking it to who is consuming them. So, definitely public education is the way to go.
But aside, your observation and your speaking to the traders, do they look like they're willing to, accept the report in any way, or have a conversation on this particular issue?
Oh yeah, they were. I asked some of them. My opening question actually to all of them was that, do they find this report troubling? And they all responded in the affirmative. it is very troubling because even they, the market women themselves, if could also be affected because they eat what they sell. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
So they are. I mean, most of them are actually open to have conversations around them, but then the dilemma here is that they do not want to come to terms with the fact that what they are selling is likely to contain poison, for the lack of better expression, and to an extent will affect their livelihood. So, if you ask me, most of them are just delusional. If you ask me, they know. Actually, some from the responses that some of them gave, they acknowledge the threats or the impacts of illegal mining. They know that it's not only affecting our water bodies. Some of these crops mostly are also likely to be affected, but the dilemma again is that they do not want to believe that what they are selling has been affected.
Right.
So yeah, they are really open to have conversation, and I'm sure that the FDA, per their own mechanism, will have a way to go around it.
We all know the Agbogbloshie market, but what key role do they play in, Ghana's food supply chain?
And Agbogbloshie market in the central business district is like the biggest, one of the biggest markets. When it's part of us even eating to Makola and what have you. So if you in Accra here, if you want to buy, people go there to buy in bulk. We know that they have an onion market. They have, even where we went to conduct our interview, they have a whole market that they have like a consumer, a taro leaf market, a consumer market, and they call that place Body Foam. So you go there, and on that entire enclave, it is just consumer that people are selling. So it's a big deal. It's really a focal point if we are having a conversation around Ghana's food chain. So yeah, that's how integral they are in the country's food supply chain.
Yes, the doctor you spoke to mentioned the risks associated with mercury and the likes. Enhance or drum home the point on that for us a bit more.
Yeah, so I asked, I thought from the doctor whether there are immediate tangibles in determining whether a food or a crop has been contaminated by mercury. And she mentioned that the signs may not be immediately visible because these are metals, they are chemicals. So you could even buy something, let's say consumer, they will look very fresh, but that is not a guarantee or assurance that they are safe for consumption.
But does the cooking and the washing it with vinegar and salt do anything at all?
They said they don't do anything at all because they are not like, it's not like a bacteria where you can cook and boil to a certain temperature and then be sure that, okay, well, to understand that will be safe. But he said with heavy metals, it is non-negotiable. Once they are contaminated, they are contaminated. Maybe to take some, well, she didn't say that, it might probably take some divine intervention or some miracle, or maybe some clinical, interventions to an extent to ensure that these meals again become, these heavy metals or substances are taken away from the crops. But she said with heavy metals, they are very toxic, and once they contaminate something, they should never be eaten or they should never be consumed.
What are the immediate signs that one would probably see after consuming, this type of or heavy metals for a long period?
Yeah,
I'm sure she mentioned some.
Right. So in the interview again, I asked Dr. Arab what some of the short or long-term, health implications could be, and she mentioned that with the short-term implications, there's mostly like the general, sickness that we feel, so nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, headache to an extent, sometimes, migraine and what have you. And then the long-term, she mentioned that it could have cardiovascular effects on you, even in the report that was conducted by the POS and then the EPA. They mentioned that cancer, the increase in cases of cancer has largely been attributed to some of these things. The doctor also mentioned kidney problems, and most of them or some of them actually come from the consumption of these crops that have been contaminated by heavy metals.
Thank you so much for your time, Fauzi Masaudu, and for incredible, work you've done highlighting this really troubling concern. Hopefully, you keep an eye on it and you are able to get more updates from you on this story. I mean, the results are out for all to see, and